Today we're getting under the hood with Michelle Rankine, a franchisee owner of Right at Home, a caregiving agency. Boasting over 2 decades of diverse experience spanning education, sports, and healthcare, and renowned for her unwavering commitment to delivering exceptional customer service and dependable support, Michelle continuously strives for excellence in both her professional and personal endeavors. Her academic journey is marked by remarkable achievements, culminating in a Ph.D. in higher education from the University of Denver, complemented by a master's degree in sports management and pedagogy administration, and a bachelor's degree in kinesiology from Purdue University. Driven by a profound passion for entrepreneurship, Michelle embarked on a transformative path, propelled by a desire to make meaningful impact within her community, and faced with life-altering circumstances following a tragic accident involving her brother, who was diagnosed as a paraplegic, Michelle transitioned her entrepreneurial aspirations into action. This is a pivotal moment that led her to acquire a franchise with Right at Home, where she has since flourished, currently overseeing 3 franchises. Additionally, Michelle expanded her entrepreneurial portfolio by acquiring a Fastest Labs franchise in 2022. Michelle's journey brought her to McKinney, Texas, where she found her calling with Right at Home. Drawing from her rich educational background and extensive experience in higher education and sports, Michelle harbored a long-standing dream of owning her own business and making a positive impact on others' lives. Having served as a caregiver for various family members over the years, Michelle intimately understands the physical, emotional, and spiritual challenges that families face when caring for their loved ones. Guided by a philosophy rooted in compassion and integrity, Michelle remains dedicated to consistently advocating for her clients' well-being, ensuring that she always does right by them. For Michelle, entrepreneurship transcends mere business endeavors. It embodies the spirit of trailblazing, breaking barriers, and leaving enduring legacies. Wow. Welcome, Michelle.
Thank you, Elizabeth. I'm so excited to be here.
Oh, I am so delighted to have you. It's season 4, Women's March for Mental Wellness. It also happens to be Caregiver Awareness Month. So what a perfect opportunity to connect and to hear and share your story. If it's okay, let's get going.
I'm excited.
Awesome. I think just reading your introduction, there's so much to unpack here, but everybody has an inflection point. And so, Michelle, what was your inflection point that got you on a journey to really being aware of mental health and wellness?
Most impactful point, actually, was definitely my brother's incident to get me into caregiving. But I would actually say what stands out the most to me is actually when my stepdad passed from prostate cancer. Having the knowledge that I know and going through it again unpacks differently. And I really constantly always see how women carry the full burden. There's this saying, what is it? You burn the candle on both ends. But I feel specifically as a daughter in that point, I saw how my mom was carrying the candles, right? And how I needed to be there to support her as much as possible in that journey. So for me, in regards to mental health and seeing it from a caregiving lens couldn't be even more important than anything in your everyday life. I'm constantly always reminded myself, right? How do I tend to this garden? And when new things enter my life, how do I recalculate? Today, it could be my stepdad, and unfortunately, we did lose him, and he's in a better place because he was in a lot of pain. But there's always something coming into our life that is going to shift us. And our mental health is what grounds us with that. I heard this saying and it stays in my mind continuously. It's like when you're driving and you make a wrong turn, it doesn't say bad. It says recalculating. It's okay. We just have to make another turn. And so as anything that happens in our life, especially things that can weigh on us that are heavy, just like caregiving, how do we recalculate and keep moving through it? Because it is our grounding and how we navigate and look at things from a perspective of what is positive in it. I did a talk just the other day about caregiving, tending to your garden. One of the key factors in that is weathering the storm. And at first, when I was writing it, I said, weathering the storm, we all know that it's going to happen and it's going to be heavy. But then I really looked at it from another perspective of sometimes in that storm, there is peace. If I really literally think about when there is a storm, there is a peace in that. There is a rebuilding that has to happen. And I think all of that said in one is my inflection. And it's kind of ironic right now. Today is the aftermath of Hurricane Melissa in Jamaica, and I'm, embracing all the emotions that is for my family there and friends and what that is going to be like. And so it's just always a journey in life, and our mental health must always be at the forefront.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. And yeah, about Hurricane Melissa, I'm a big fan of Jamaica. I've been there several times, so my heart goes out to the people there. But I want to, Michelle, there's so much to unpack why you spoke at such a high level and with such confidence dealing with what you dealt with, dealing with your stepfather dying of prostate cancer, and then with your brother with his accident,
Yeah.
and caregiving with that, and the strength you had to find, the resilience within. What did that feel like? And I don't know how old you were in each juncture. I know that when we talked previously, you had mentioned that during your brother's accident, were you doing your PhD then?
Yeah, yeah.
Good, I remember. Good. To your point, there's so much. I love the analogy of the car, the recalculating life, but at the core, your mental health. What were you thinking and feeling during that experience as you were running to the war as a caregiver to the caregiver with your mom and then with your brother?
It was totally different experiences. With my brother, mental health was not something that was talked about when I was in my 20s. Not at all. But I do remember the feeling of being anxious and unsettling. Now, looking back on it, I'll tell you, when my brother's accident happened, I can cry at the drop of a dime. That's just how I am. If you tell me a sad story, I'm going to be boo-hooing. And my mom knows that of me. And so I remember the day we got to so let me back up. My brother's accident happened in Indiana. My mom lives in New Jersey. I was in Jamaica at the time, and we all had to fly in. So when I finally arrived, like a day later, after he's been in the hospital, I wanted to go see him immediately. And my mom stopped me. And she said, "You're not allowed in this room, Michelle, until you can control your emotions, because anything that comes in this room has to be of positivity. And I know you're going to cry." And at that moment, to me, I was sad, hurt. I want to see him. I want to be present. I'm like looking through like the window. I just want to be there. But now knowing all the things and have done the work in regards to mental health, doing the work is so important of knowing your emotions and how to feel. And I had to feel my way through that and sit in it, to really say, okay, there's other things I can do to support my strong mom here who doesn't cry from outside. And I was able to kind of help navigate the friends that were coming to visit because, he's 21, there was 101 fraternity brothers and all the things, trying to navigate that piece for her. That was my role. I'm happy I got to do that at that time, but I wasn't prepared. I didn't have the toolkit at that time. With my stepdad, that was just 4 years ago, it felt different. It was a very hard time. However, I knew what to do and I knew that it was okay to feel. I didn't have the level of anxiety that I had with my brother. For example, we had a caregiver there already set in place. I already knew what was next to come. I already knew how to navigate hospice, and we had our chaplain that prayed with us, and everything in that moment, I felt present, and it wasn't reactive. In my brother's incident, it was a reaction. So for those moments, I felt comfortable and at peace. And I'm not sure if it's just growth and time of age, but I definitely knew how to manage those emotions much differently at 39 versus at 25 or 6.
Well, it's funny that you're saying that. That was exactly what was going through my head, was really poking at imagine 25, 26 years old, your little brother gets into a car accident. I mean, he has his whole life ahead and that he ends up a paraplegic. Whereas your stepfather, yes, he got ill, but he has lived probably a fairly hardy life. The other thing, so you have a couple of things going for you there. You have growth in terms of life and aging and the experience, and you also, and the emotions that come in your 20s where you're seeing, but you also have the difference with just looking at where the people you were caregiving for, where they were in their journey. So it's not so simple, but it is great to have learned and have that growth. And I love the fact, I want to go back and really highlight the tending to your garden, and which makes you able to show up in ways because your mental health is mental well. You know what I mean? You're mentally well. And so can you share a little bit about how you talk about and how you tend to your own garden and then how you share tending to gardens with other people?
I want to pull it up because I don't want to miss something. So the first thing I know is you have to water your own soil. Sometimes, just like you hear the analogy of being in the airport, put your mask on first before you help anyone else. And I giggle at that sometimes because one of the key questions that I ask the audience, and I want anyone who's listening to us to ask this yourself. I know I am a giver, and most women are. And when you are an innate giver, you just give. But how would that be if you actually gave yourself all that you give? And we just don't do that. We don't. And I say this and I have to remind myself on a regular basis. I have to water my own soil. It's funny, I'm sitting here in my kitchen and this bright light is not a light of
Oh
of
no, it's fabulous. Honestly, it's fabulous.
but you know what's funny? It's actually my AI garden. And it's a reminder of me, even though I have this thing, and I can kind of show it to you, even though I have this thing on autopilot, it is not always thriving. I still have to tend to it. And so in my mind, we think sometimes things could be so easy to put it on autopilot, and it's not. And I sometimes am like, okay, I know all the things, I have all the routines, but when am I sitting present in the moment? And that is watering your soil. And I just tell myself 10 minutes. I have a little massage chair. I sit in it and I read. And for me, reading and just sitting in absolute silence is all I need. All I need to go through the day and make myself grounded. And for someone else, it could be different, but that is watering your soil. The other thing is wearing your gloves. And I consider wearing the gloves.
Ah,
My mom,
oh,
my
interesting.
mom put a boundary, right? Just how I told you in the story, we have to have good boundaries. And it's okay to say no. We can't be superwomen every day. So that's wearing the gloves. And then feeding the soil, right? You have to water your own soil, but how do you feed it? And I think sometimes we think we should be always blooming, and that's not reality, right? And so if you tend to your garden, there's going to be some pieces they have to pull out and throw that are kind of like dying. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay if you don't go to that extra event with your girlfriend. You can say no. And so how are you feeding your soil? And then the final thing is what I mentioned, weathering the storm. There is going to be a storm. You know you need to embrace it. How do you walk through that journey and how do you find peace in it? And that's my 4 tips of emotional survival for caregiving.
I think it's brilliant and I'm just smiling. I have a big smile inside, which you can't see because in my previous job, and I continue to, I always talked about watering my garden. And my garden were the creatives who worked with me. And I said, "You're a beautiful garden. You've all blossomed differently." But I literally used that metaphor about watering our garden, tending to our garden, and planting seeds. And usually, the planting seeds of positivity. Things are going to bloom. And to your point, storms will come in and they're going to bloom differently. Your crop one year will be different from the next. But I love that as a metaphor personally, because I think that when we think of ourselves as gardens that need to be tended to and cherished, there's something just really, it's really beautiful. And then when you think of yourself as a caregiver tending to the external garden, the garden of life, and the fact that things happen, I think it also gives you some distance from things. We're talking about mental health and wellness now, Michelle. I mean, you've acquired these multiple franchises right at home. Share a little bit because I want to go into, so you have this philosophy, these four pillars, if you will, of tending to your garden. But then with right at home, what is that experience like? Talk about how you went from being a personal caregiver to a franchisee owner of caregiving.
That journey, I think, is something of following your gut first. I am one, and I think many people in their 20s, you don't really know what you want to do. You think you know. And so, I have a degree that you mentioned that I'm not using, right? But it did give me some skills, and it's interesting. I think you should always follow your gut. I laugh about it now because I remember taking the exam and it kind of associates your personality to a career. And when I took it, I remember it said caregiving. And I remember it said nursing and it had maid and all these things. And I remember going to my mom and she's like, I am not paying for Purdue University. This is all wrong. And coming from a immigrant family, it's like you're going one direction, right? Like it's either doctor, attorney, engineer. And so, you drive off of others and what direction you need to go. And when I really became an adult and felt that, okay, I'm finishing my PhD, I like to serve students, I love that. But when walking through the journey of my brother's accident, I really felt a calling that I had to defy my parents. They were like, well, you haven't even walked the full journey of your doctorate yet, Michelle. You've worked all this way. And I think there's a point of when you're an entrepreneur and you just have a gut feeling like, this isn't my purpose. And I know it's that direction. I don't really know why or how or what, but I'm going to keep going that way. And to be quite honest, I really didn't know my next step. But I think when you have faith in yourself, I really felt strong calling that anything that I betted on, I could bet on myself. And I know, as women, we know that feeling. Like, I know I'm going to get through this. And I was like, I've never done professional caregiving as an agency, but I was like, I think I can do this. And that's why I ended up choosing the pathway of a franchise because I knew I needed support along this way. And I think that was a great decision for me to walk that journey.
I hear so many stories in all the interviews, nearly 200 interviews for podcasts, women from representing over 68 countries, maybe even over 70 now. But I want to say the immigrant families, these women are like put on this path to become doctor, lawyer, engineer, and it's their journey. And so I think, first of all, I applaud you for saying, no, that's not my purpose, I'm not feeling it. And recognizing the education's good. That's about learning how to think independently and do differently. And so, to find your calling in a way is just, and at a young age, like to be on that path is just a beautiful thing. So I just want to take a minute and pause and let's just acknowledge the beautiful garden you've created. And so I'm curious, as you're building out this garden, talk a little bit about Fast Labs and how you're imagining the future in this particular space for you.
With Fastest Labs, I am using it in a way to help my patients. So one of the ways, I'm a certified dementia practitioner, and with dementia, I'm very passionate about it. My mom's oldest sister is in a memory care community, and seeing her dementia and seeing the signs early and then seeing her progress through the disease is very hard to witness, as well as just that's who I see on a normal basis for other families. And with dementia, I think it is innate when I meet the caregivers of the anxiety they feel like, how do I prevent this from happening to me? Like, what do I need to do, Michelle, to prepare myself, right? And I have these conversations often. And so Fastest Labs has given me the toolkit to offer PGX testing, and it's pharmacogenetics testing. And I think when you're working with dementia patients, they don't know or they can't communicate how medication makes them feel. And when you have someone with dementia, they are on medication. And many times, what I have found is their medication might not be best for them. There may be alternate that works better for their DNA. And the PGX test allows us to just do a cheek swab and test to see how that medication reacts to their DNA. And we have seen significant improvement by just giving that now to their primary care physician to say, can we alter this medication? This one gives them side effects and this one doesn't. And I think everyone needs it, but more so for those persons who can't speak to how they feel. For example, Elizabeth, you may take a medicine and say, hey, doc, it's kind of giving me a stomach ache. It's making me too tired. They adjust the milligrams. And that's how we work with medicine. We just adjust based on how we communicated how it affected. And sometimes just seeing the signs aren't enough. And I do believe that many times especially with dementia patients, they can be over medicated. And so that gives me the toolkit to add to what we're doing with Right at Home. In addition to just compliance, I feel that the biggest tool, or my product is caregivers. And I want to make sure, hands down, that everyone is receiving the same care I would give to my mom and my dad. And so my biggest thing is making sure I have compliant caregivers, and having drug testing as part of my own business is huge to me because I want to make sure that I'm sending someone the same that I want in my own family's home. And I'm very passionate about mom and dad care. Like everyone needs to be getting the same care that I want for my parents. And so with a product that are people and people that make mistakes, I want to make sure that we're the best being compliant. And so Fastest Lab intertwines in those two ways for Right at Home for me.
I love that. And I love Michelle. I have to tell you, having been a caregiver to a caregiver, a long distance caregiver, and just, as a mother, just caregiving by nature and doing a lot of documentaries and everything on caregiving, I really appreciate your desire to create a company where your caregivers are caring for their patients the way they'd care for mom and dad. Because I think that, one of the things I have felt, just ensuring that my mother and my father, who have since passed, had the care, were getting the love, the things that they needed to progress through their experience. And I myself, by the way, my mom's younger sister, she has two sisters left, there were four of them. And she has Alzheimer's, and watching her decline and the whole experience has been really, really upsetting. It's just really upsetting. It's like seeing that disease up close. So to do that all the time and to be in that space and really the care, the heart you must have, I
Yeah.
mean, if you're a crier, you must be shedding a lot of tears, huh?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And I think everyone wants to be seen, right?
Mm,
I think for myself, I know what this disease does, and I have to always remind myself. So when I go see my aunt, I always know, like when she has a moment of clarity, everyone gets excited, right? Because now she remembered me. Like my aunts get excited. Oh, she remembered me. Yeah, she talked about that, you know? And so if you don't have that experience, and I see it very often, where a daughter or a son go back to visit their mom and they don't know who they are. And that is a different level of pain if you don't know how to process that. And you don't, and it's not a level of understanding the disease. They understand it, but it's the innate feeling of feeling seen that I see very often, which then can go in two ways, right? Do I continue to visit often when someone doesn't know me, or do I fall back? And then what is that in between space of that emotion of sadness, that emotion of guilt, of either direction that you choose? I witness that all the time.
I think you hit on something really important, Michelle, and I just love this whole conversation. We're marching for mental wellness, but as a caregiver, God, mental wellness, mental health is like essential if you don't have a strong core dealing. And I think that your comment about being seen, the the patient to the caregiver, and those, like my aunt passed a year ago, very close to, I was with her 3 weeks before she passed, and I was watching the caregiver. She had gotten insurance, she had a bizarre accident, bizarre stroke, she had a series of unfortunate events. But what I think is interesting about this story is the relationship that patients build with their caregivers. And then you have the families to the care, so you
Yeah.
have the caregivers who are professional caregivers, you have the personal caregivers, and seeing and witnessing. So you have the people who are there every day seeing things, and then you have the family coming in, seeing different things or seeing what they think they're seeing. It's not that they're not seeing, I'm not gaslighting them, but you get what I'm saying. It's quite complex. But if you do break it down and just say they want to be seen, they're still alive, they're still here, they're still present in different capacities. How do we make this time, how I'd want to treat mom and dad time, right?
Mhm. It's funny you say that because it speaks to this quote that I always see, and it's caregiving is love in action, but for women, it's often invisible labor. And so we want to be seen. Everyone wants to be seen. You want to have that feeling, but caregiving is an invisible labor that you're not getting any rewards for. And when I think of the journey for women, and there's always the term sandwich generation, caring for your parents and then caring for your kids. But that's not it. That's not encompass of everything because I witness women caring for their kids, caring for their parents, and then also caring for their spouse, their partner. You're talking about a triple effect. That is labor intensive. And that is so many hours of care, understanding, tasking, outsourcing, managing them and yourself. It's unspeakable how I witnessed that.
Well, and you're missing something else, Michelle, if I may add on. And they
Oh,
also
please.
have full-time jobs and
Oh,
careers.
that part too.
You forgot that. They're managing
Oh,
their
yeah. Yeah.
careers.
This
They
is
have
not
to
their
help
full-time
support the
job.
home financially, and they're caring for their children, their aging parents, in your case, a sibling potentially, or someone, a loved one, and then of course their spouse. Yes, caregiving is multi-layered. It's like peeling back an onion when you think about the many things that go into it emotionally, mentally, and physically. And I want you to speak to that for a second. Like if you were to describe the emotional, mental, and physical experiences of a caregiver.
If I could explain in a short way the emotional, physical, all the things of a caregiver, ooh. I mean, I think it's tending to your garden, right? It's literally that analogy of just constantly doing the four pillars of work over and over and over again. That definitely would be it.
So is that how you march for mental wellness? Like if you were to say, and I'm asking Michelle, you could say professionally, but personally, how do you march for mental wellness?
My march for mental wellness is just constantly going back to tending to my garden and using those four pillars over and over again. I think, There are times where I feel I'm on it, I got it all, and then everything kind of crashes down. But one thing I do know from being in this business for 13 years, when we spoke about everything in regards to the triple threat, right? And it's really everything in life, right? And managing the household. I've witnessed many women in this field that have come right out. I've had other colleagues that are women who are caring for their own parents and caring for their kids, and running a caregiving agency is a different beast. And I think I've been blessed that I don't have children. And so I'm able to give a different level of continuity with it. Because the burnout is something that I'm constantly aware of myself. That I said it to myself the other day. I said, I have to take some time for myself now, because I felt like I was running red. Because you're running a business, and many of us are working, and whatever your task may be every day, and running that business as well as caring for people. And it's like, I like to always consider it math with care. There is the math piece of the business, but you have to always lead with the care. And that is heavy. That is heavy. And so I'm constantly going back to my four pillars, and what do I need to do in those four pillars for myself. And sometimes that's just 10 minutes a day. And sometimes it's just that week could be 10 minutes that week that I'd able to spend where I'm pouring back into myself, because I know when I'm depleted. And I think the biggest thing with that, to be quite honest, Elizabeth, that we don't really talk about is just getting good sleep. I can't tell you how many women I talk to, they're not able to sleep to just replenish just a bit our basic needs, because they're waking up in the middle of the night, mind racing of tasks they need to do later, and they're not well rested. And so I think one thing that I always am reminded of, I wear a Whoop, and it will tell me you're you need recovery. And there's nothing better to me personally to have that constant reminder that it's alerting me that I need to put in my rest.
No, I think it's amazing. I think this is a great learning for all women and for all the people who are listening, any caregiver and any human, is those four pillars of tending to your garden. And so I think that's I love the fact that you always go back to that. I mean, having that kind of discipline is what keeps your core really strong, which keeps your mind really clean and well. So I want to say I just applaud that. And I really also want to acknowledge and celebrate the amazing work you've done over this time to go and take these personal experiences to bringing it into a business world to make caregiving something that we would want for our moms and dads. I just love that. So I hate to wrap this up. I have one last question, which I think is a wonderful one, because we want to make sure that each and every woman we talk to leaves a message to lift the next woman. So this is your platform today, Michelle, to give a message to women of all ages, of all backgrounds, of all cultures. What do you want to leave them with?
I want to go back to what we mentioned before, but speak of it in a way of agape love. Caregiving is agape love. And if you ever want to witness love as an action word, it is that in caregiving. Because I think we think, oh, love, all the hearts and feelings are great, but love comes with ache, right? Love comes through every emotion. And how can we constantly give the love we want to receive and also give that to others with balance? So I leave that for everyone to just, how do you express your love for yourself and for others? And how do you define your agape love?
Loving yourself is part of making sure that your cup is full. And then how do you love others? That's just so beautiful. Michelle, thank you so much for getting under the hood with me today. You are just extraordinary. I love the work you're doing. It's really important.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth, for having me. I love this. It's a great conversation, and thank you for having the platform for everyone else to kind of listen in because I know there's a lot of women that will benefit from this.
Thank you. I do want to add, I want to add on to two other things I just want to add to that, which is, we're living in such a time of AI. Everything is, artificial intelligence, but these real conversations, intimate conversations with women to give voice to all of their strengths, to celebrate them, I think is so important. So thank you for acknowledging that. And then, Michelle, if you can let people know how to get a hold of you, if people want to reach out to you, where can they find you?
Sure, they can reach me on my website, which is www.rahdfw.com. So that stands for right at home, and then the Dallas airport code, DFW.com. Or they can go on my panhandle, like on Instagram, send me a DM. I'm always posting really great things on caregiving and understanding caregiving, and that's Michelle Rankine, Ph.D.
Thank you so much. And, celebrating you during Family Caregiver Awareness Month. Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
Thanks for listening to Under the Sisterhood. If you haven't already, please give us a quick rating and review on Apple or Spotify. And make sure to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn so you can hear from more amazing women. This podcast is created and hosted by Under the Sisterhood LLC and Elizabeth Elfenbein, produced by Elizabeth Elfenbein and Matt Butler, and edited by Matt Butler. The music is by Ayla Schaefer. Her song, Rose.